What is up, and welcome in to Post Loons episode 16, following a deflating, disappointing 2-2 draw at Vancouver. Joining me to break it all down and react to it is the man from Pod on You Loons, the host of Pod on You Loons. Sam, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Jeremy. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back, and boy, do we have some stuff to talk about right off the top here. Before we do that, though, let me get this housekeeping stuff out of the way. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up on the stream. That is huge. Whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, whether you're watching on 10,000 Pitches Twitter, on my Twitter, or on the 10K YouTube channel, please leave a question or comment in the chat for us to get to. I assume a lot of those questions and comments are going to be about the controversial penalty decision at the end, costing the Loons a couple points there. So get those questions and comments in. Make sure you leave a thumbs up on the stream if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at 10K Pitches, and follow Pod on You Loons on Twitter too, at Pod Loons. All right, Sam, that's out of the way. 90+3, we get a situation in the box. It's Ethan Finlay, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who it was for Vancouver. But jockeying for position. Looks like while Finlay is beaten to the ball, he doesn't initiate any of the contact, but there is contact, and the referee decides to call the penalty. What was your initial reaction?
I don't mind losing. I don't mind drawing. I don't mind heartbreak. What I do mind is I mind when something is just taken from you and it doesn't seem fair. If you listen to the show, you know that 2/3 of our show is made up of teachers, myself included, and us teachers, we're all about fairness, and that just didn't seem right.
No.
It didn't seem right just from the naked eye. Just watching it, it didn't look like a penalty. And then it didn't seem right that Ethan Finlay, who is not this season hasn't been necessarily up to his standards. I know lately he has had a great run of form, but the season did not start out great for him. But he was having a fantastic game today, and he was vintage Ethan Finlay today. I know that he was up for man of the match. I don't know if he actually got it or not, but he was having a great game. And to see that Ethan Finlay is the man that conceded the penalty, we'll use that in quotes, that he conceded the penalty. I mean, that's heartbreaking too. That doesn't seem fair for anyone.
No. And let's talk about, after the decision's made, that this is why you have VAR. Like, referees in the moment make mistakes. It happens. They make wrong calls. Human, right? This is why you have VAR. And I didn't even see, Sam, did the referee even get to the monitor before the decision was made? Did they even actually officially take a look at it at the monitor?
I didn't see them go to the monitor. I
didn't see it either.
I saw the earpiece. So
yeah, that to me is why does that even exist? That sort of that backup, that safety net. Why does that even exist if you're not going to use that at all in this scenario? Where, yes, you have the people in the truck. Yes, you have the guys looking at it. I mean, but to only give it a few seconds and not even allow the opportunity for the ref to get to the monitor and look at it at himself. I have been in those video operating rooms. I kind of know how those operate. I do kind of have like an inside look at this. And
really?
So, yes, I do.
Okay. Did not know this.
So I try to look at this from the official's perspective a lot. And I do kind of have a different perspective on a lot of these things. But this, for the life of me, I don't understand why they didn't take the time, being such a crucial point in the match. I mean, it's not like this happened in the 25th or 30th minute. It's not like it was a 2-goal lead. Like, you're deciding the match on this. At least take the time to look at it, because it's the last kick. It's the last kick of the match. They didn't even allow Minnesota the opportunity to advance the ball off the kickoff. So why not take a look at it? That, to me, that was the most dumbfounding part to me. Not necessarily the initial call, because that happens. Referees do make mistakes in the heat of the moment. They see things differently in the run of play. I get it. But this is why that backup plan exists of VAR, and they did not even really utilize it at all, from what I saw.
Now, just to be the devil's advocate, and trust me, I don't want to be the devil's advocate right now, but I guess there's a difference between a wrong call and a soft call. And so if the referee made a soft call and you go to VAR, like, you can't overturn a soft call. Once a soft call is made, that's going to stand. So do you think maybe that might be it, that he's in his earpiece, the guys in the van are telling him the contact was there, that's what you called, there's nothing we can do?
That doesn't sit well with me. I understand the devil's advocate side of that, but that doesn't sit well with me. Eric Grady, we have a ton of comments on this, by the way. Eric Grady says, why doesn't the ref look at the monitor there? I completely agree with you, Eric. You know, if there's one instance where the ref should take the time to look at the monitor and take even extra time to look at the monitor, it's in the last kick of a match that's going to decide it. Absolutely. He goes on to say, I get the call in live time, but slow down. It was so obvious. It looked pretty obvious that Finley was not the one that initiated the contact, at least on the replay. He was beaten to the ball, no doubt. But he didn't initiate any of the contact there. So like you said, soft call, right, Sam, more than necessarily a wrong call there. Dave Valensky says, yeah, it's a fall going the other way. When the whistle initially blew, I thought they did call a foul on Vancouver, and we were going the other way with a goal kick, Sam. That's what I thought too. Yeah. And then to see the penalty, and there was a long discussion before we actually got confirmation from Cal that they were pointing to the spot as well. I thought that if penalty was the initial call, even in that conversation, that it was going to be overturned and at least go the other way. Obviously, that didn't happen. If you have any questions or comments on this or any portion of the match, feel free to drop those in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitter here. We're going to be talking about, this portion of the match and the match as a whole for as long as this goes here, as long as you guys send in the comments and questions, we will be here. But let's take a little bit of a detour from this, unless you have any more specific thoughts on this instance, Sam. If you have any, I'll let you go. But if not, let's go ahead and go into our three things, which really have to do more as the match as a whole.
No, I don't have anything else to add. I mean, it sucks. Can we say much more than that? Then it sucks.
That's a great way to sum it up. It sucks. Absolutely, it does. So let's go into our three things, which are mostly positive, because to be quite transparent, we put these in the doc before the the penalty call happened. So, Sam, you're the guest. I'll give you the honors. What's your first thing?
So, first thing I wanted to bring up, because I'm a big fan of dysfunction. On the Pot on You Loons, we have a kind of not quite a recurring segment anymore, but we call it our Big Club Day Football, or the Big CF. And hearing that the rest of the Canadian teams got to return home, but Vancouver Whitecaps could not return home because of a scheduling issue involving a wizard exhibit. I think it's called Wings and Wizards. So their stadium is being used for basically a Harry Potter knockoff exhibit, which looks pretty cool. I looked at the trailer for it.
Great. Don't get me wrong. That sounds great, but timing.
But so they get to return home at the end of August, but the wizard exhibit goes until basically until what we would call Labor Day. I don't know if they have Labor Day there or not, but so there's going to be, I think, 3 Vancouver home games I looked up that overlap with this wizard thing. So I'm a little bit more confused if they can timeshare the stadium for for those 3 games. Why not all of them? I don't know.
It's interesting. I would think that, first of all, okay, yeah, you're using the stadium for the exhibit, but why on earth are you using the stadium for an exhibit that exists for over a month? That makes no sense. It's not like this is a museum, Sam. It's the stadium. It's like if US Bank Stadium just decided, we're going to throw in an exhibit for a month in the middle of Viking season. People would lose their minds.
They must have assumed that they weren't coming back or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
must have.
I'll give them credit. I'll give the stadium officials credit that they probably were trying to do what was best in probably trying to make up on some lost revenue that they've experienced over the past year or so. I'll give them that credit. I just don't totally get, like, when I heard that they had a scheduling conflict involving a Wizard thing, that was funny enough, but now I'm really confused, and I'm wondering if you can pack up the exhibit and put it into storage and then bring it back out again 3 times for 3 games. Why not all of them?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I'm picturing this thing like taking up the whole floor, right? Like the whole length of the
Yeah.
floor. And so having to like pack that up, stuff it in a closet basically, and let the match play, and then get it back out and put it all back together. That seems very, very inconvenient and tedious.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
I don't envy the the setup and teardown crew there up at up in Vancouver. But anyways, yeah, that was very interesting. I was kind of dumbfounded when I first heard that too. So my first thing, third time in 4 matches, Robin Lod has scored a late clutch goal. Scored the equalizer against Seattle, the winner against Portland, and now what was looking to be the winner against Vancouver until it wasn't. But either way, he is really coming into his own, and he has been one of, if you look statistically, one of the most clutch players in MLS over the course of the season, but especially these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone's taking note. Everyone's noticing this year. Robin Lod is on every Minnesota fan's mind. It used to be, why is Lod in the lineup? Now it's, why is Lod being subbed out? Why would we ever sub Lod out if you know he's going to score when it matters the most?
To shout out Grant from the Dummy Run podcast, #unsubbable, Robin Lod right there. And he showed it again tonight. All right, Sam, second thing.
Second thing, we do have 2 DPs starting the game on the bench, 2 consecutive games with Jan Gregish and Adrian Hunou, both starting on the bench for 2 consecutive games. Adrian Hunou made it in for an entire half today, and Jan Gregish made it in at least for the last 3 minutes today, and he played probably 30 in the previous game, but 2 DPs on the bench, 2 consecutive games. That's an interesting.
Yeah, hearing some rumors that Jan Gregish could be on his way out at season's end. He was influential, obviously, in the most recent match against LAFC, helping assist on the equalizer there late in that match. So thought maybe that might have earned some some trust in terms of getting him out on the field for a little bit longer, but was not to be tonight. Like you said, only out there for a few minutes was Gregish. And then it wasn't until halftime when Heath completely changed the whole shape around back to the 4-2-3-1 that he brought Adrian Hunou on the pitch. And so my initial thinking was, and we put these pregame questions in the notes just to kind of get our brains going and get us, maybe some inspiration for what our 3 things are going to be. And so when I looked at the lineup and I saw, okay, we're going to the 4-3-3 again, and we're going again with Lod up top and Finley on the right. It's like, does this say something about Adrian Heath's trust in Adrian Hunou at that point too? Because it's second straight match, so it's not like it's a rotationary thing where you're trying to get him rest. This is a second straight match where he has started on the bench. But obviously Heath was not happy with how the first half played out, switches back to the 4-2-3-1, Hunou's on the pitch, and you see what happens. The team pretty much dominated the second half back in their old shape. So we'll see what that says moving forward for what Adrian Heath does with the lineup, because the 4-3-3 traditionally has not been something that Minnesota United has excelled in. They got the late draw against LAFC in that 4-3-3, but tonight it took until halftime, and it took a really lackluster first half for Adrian Heath to go to his DP striker at that point.
Yeah, and just before we move on, let's just move back to Gregish too, because I think with the formation change going to the 4-3-3, that makes his situation especially interesting, because knowing that we normally play in a 4-2-3-1, knowing that you're only going to have 2 midfield spots for right? You have Gregush, you have Hassani, you have Ozzy, you have Trapp, you have Hayes. That's a crowded midfield right there. When you only have 2 spots and you can only play 2 at a time, but when you have 3, seeing that Gregush on the bench in favor of Hayes 2 games in a row,
that's interesting.
That is interesting, especially when you consider that with Fragapane injured, Adrian Heath made the decision to switch from our normal 4-2-3-1 into a 4-3-3. I'm assuming because he wanted Hayes on the field. I'm assuming that he did that to get Hayes on the field. My only thought is that and this kind of reminds me of a lot of Heath's comments about Christian Ramirez, about how he thinks that the team that Christian Ramirez on didn't suit him, but he thinks that the team that Minnesota United have developed into would have better suited Christian Ramirez, and he would have been much more successful. I'm wondering with Gregush, when he was featuring more for Minnesota United in 2019, right? You had Ozzy Alonso, right? Mm-hmm. Arguably the best defensive midfielder that the MLS has ever seen. And then in 2020, Ozzy was still there, and obviously he's still there right now too. He's just not as prominent of a role. But you've also seen that Minnesota United has improved in some of other players on Minnesota United have been able to provide what Jan Gregush has traditionally been able to provide as well. Yeah. Hassani Dotson contributing on the attack. Hassani Dotson continuing to improve as a player overall. Emmanuel Reynoso being able to take the free kicks that Gregush was so prominently featured in before. It just, you kind of see a lot of Gregush's strengths being covered by other players on the team, where his weakness would probably be more defensively. And that's not being covered up by Ozzy the same way it would have been before. And that makes me think that Heath trusted Hayes more defensively for that reason.
Yeah. And that's what, when Heath was asked specifically about Ramon Avila and his status and why maybe he wasn't making the trip, Heath mentioned that he's looking for more defensive-minded look for the team. That, to me, is an indicator maybe why you go to Hayes instead of Gregush in that particular scenario. Hayes plays a more defensive role. If that's what better suits him, then great. We've seen him do well as maybe a more well-rounded midfielder, but that's been the role that Hayes has kind of been tasked with when he's been in the 4-3-3. So that does kind of align with what Adrian Heath was saying. But you're right, though. When you have a DP in Jan Gregush, and you have essentially a situation where you can insert a third midfielder, even though Trapp and Dotson have been kind of your main central defensive midfield pairing, when you have a situation to add a third defensive midfielder and you don't add your DP, you add somebody else, Ja'Cory Hayes is great, but anybody else aside your DP, that is going to raise some questions. And that is very, very interesting to look at. So yeah, definitely a good conversation to have there, Sam. My second thing is, this is a big 2-week stretch that should have been bigger. My initial second thing just said this was a big 2-week stretch, but obviously had to add that caveat in at the end due to what happened. But either way, you come out of this 2 weeks, home against Seattle, home against Portland, at LA, at Portland. You come out of that with 8 points. If you would have said you're going to come out of this stretch with 8 points heading into that stretch, you'd be like, okay, absolutely. I will take this 10 out of 10 times. I'll take this every day of the week. So while it really is, that wound from how this match ended is so fresh at this point, when you look bigger picture, this team is really trending in a positive direction. And the sample size of the rest of the season is looking pretty positive based off what we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree. The part that stings to me so much is looking at the table, and we have clawed our way out of the bottom of the Western Conference table into, I think we're in 6 right now. For a while, I thought we were going to be in 5th, right? And until that call at the end, it looked like we were going to overtake LAFC and move into 5th. That didn't happen. So despite our slow start to the season, we were able to claw our way into playoff position. A lot of people didn't even think we'd be able to make the playoffs this year after the first 4 games. But it seems like, based on our form and based on, right, we've only had 1 loss since the first 4 games. So based on our form, you would just think that we'd be higher by now than 6th place. And yeah, I know that Sporting Kansas City had a rough loss today. I know that people up top are dropping points, but it seems like there is that top 4 that's a little bit hard for us to catch, despite the form that we're putting in, game out.
Agreed. All right, Sam, your third thing.
Third thing I have is just 3 straight games of 2+ goals. That was our big thing this season. Very frustrating. So far, after 16 games, we are averaging 1.2 goals per game. What has been positive, though, is that we're only allowing 1.3 goals per game. So if we can keep this up, keep scoring goals, and you got to keep in mind, Fragapane is he's not even on the field right now, and he has been arguably our most impressive offensive player of late, right, along with Lud and Reynoso, but Fragapane definitely has been electric. And then, right, like our defense, still very stingy in allowing goals. If we don't count whatever happened at the end of this game, these past 4 games that you're just talking about, Seattle, Portland, LAFC, Vancouver, we're only allowing one goal per game on average to those 4 teams. If you don't count that heartbreaker at the end.
Yeah.
So we're still stingy on defense despite missing 2 of our starters. And we're actually improving on offense despite missing our most electric offensive player, arguably.
Yep. And that's huge. I mean, having Fragapane out for however long he's out, to sort of build that confidence right off the bat that, I mean, just looking at the team on paper, you can see that, we got some dudes that can fill in here, right? We got Nico Hansen, we got Ethan Finley. There are very, very quality worthy MLS starters that can fill in that role with Fragapane out. But to actually put it into practice and do it on the field and get those results without Fragapane, that's huge for building the confidence of this team moving forward. We don't know how long Fragapane is going to be out. We haven't really gotten that timeline, at least from what I've seen. But it is a very, very positive thing to know that this team can perform with or without him. Obviously, they're better with him, but they can also perform and put together results without him. That's huge.
Didn't we hear it'd be like a month?
Yeah, I think I heard like a rough estimate, but yeah, I don't think we ever got like an official timeline though. But
yeah,
kind of an unknown thing too, depending on how serious things might be. All right, my third thing. Will Trapp, assisted on the Robin Lod goal, continues to be a difference maker in defensive midfield for Minnesota United. I don't think Minnesota has had, for as great as their defensive midfield has been, from the Gregorius Alonso pairing to Hassani Dotson now and Will Trapp, I just don't think they've had a guy like Will Trapp who can turn defense into offense like that. Like, it's such a consistent thing with him, whether he is turning something over and passing and starting the counterattack right there, or in this case, turning the ball over in midfield, tanking it up himself, surveying the play and making the right decision to lead to a goal. I mean, it's just been so nice to see that. Not just from the fact that, like, obviously it's nice anytime that somebody can assist on a goal, but like, you see the other teams have these influential players who they're like two-way players, right? They really play both sides of the ball so well. And to see Will Trapp show that in the same sequence of play time and time again, it's awesome to like just see that unfold in front of you, like, every time. It's great. I love it.
I agree. And he was a free transfer. I still don't know how does that happen? How do you get a player like this as a free transfer who's not even that old?
No.
Right? He's still, what, 27, 28? Yeah. Something like that?
And this is MLS. This is a league where teams usually overpay for a guy with Will Trapp's pedigree. And Minnesota got him for nothing. That's, again, it's wild to think about. And the impact he has had on this team has been more than I think we could have expected or anticipated, to be honest, at least in my opinion. I knew he'd be great. I knew he'd be solid, but to just see it in practice on the field, I don't necessarily think I expected that.
Yeah, I'll own up to that. I thought he would be, as you said, solid. I thought he wouldn't be a liability. I thought that he would be a good veteran presence. I did not think that he would be one of the stars of the team, one of the guys that you look forward to watching game in, game out.
And he certainly has been. And it's just been awesome to see. All right, before we get into the game notes here, let's tell you about our good friends over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. I text with Derek over at 9th Street multiple times per week. Like we just connect on that level. And Derek is just a great guy. Like, we've obviously, these things start as sort of like a business partnership, right? Hey, you want to help support us? We'll help support you. It's great. We're both in the soccer community. Good times for everybody. But it really has bloomed into something that, like, I'm not necessarily involved financially in 9th Street Soccer and Coffee like some of these other guys are, but just seeing the day-to-day and seeing the plans that they have and the things that they want to do and how they want to impact the community, it's made me super passionate in terms of helping out 9th Street and pushing other people to help support 9th Street and choose 9th Street as their place to go for any sort of pickup, whether you want to rent a field or participate in pickup. So let's talk about pickup a little bit. Pickup soccer. It's a great way to stay in shape, no matter your skill level. It's a cool thing. If you're super competitive, they have pickup matches for you. If you're more casual, you can go there and compete as well. $35 for an unlimited pickup membership. So 801 South 9th Street in Minneapolis. If you're in or around the area, or you're just an avid pickup soccer player and you think you might utilize something like this, $35 for an unlimited pickup membership. Or if you just want to do one session, or you think I might only do one session a week or whatever, it's $5. The times are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 7 p.m. And also new lunch pickup Tuesday and Thursday at noon. So a lot of different time slots there to get your pickup soccer in. Just go to 9thstreetmpls.com or follow them on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at 9th Street MPLS. Big fan of everything they're doing. The coffee shop will be open soon. On the Instagram, they kind of have the pictures on how things have progressed. So even if you're not interested in the pickup or anything right now, if you want to learn more about 9th Street and kind of see their journey, just go to their Instagram at 9th Street MPLS and check out some of these pictures, because it is really cool. I was there back in December. It was, a lot of wooden boards, bare bones. And then I've seen the pictures and the videos and how things have progressed. And now it's night and day from what it looked like 7 months ago. So go check them out, 9thstreetmpls.com, learn all about them, rent a field, compete and pick up, or just help support 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. It's great what they're doing for the community. It's such a unique business model too. I'm really very passionate about what they do. So go help support them if you can. Big thanks to them for helping support Post Loons as well, being our main sponsor here. Dave Valensky says, who knew as a solid striker? Why does Adrian feel like you still need to use a false nine? Dave, I'm gonna level with you here. In terms of seeing a false nine, applied on the field, I am not the person that's going to be able to see something like that applied. If you're talking about using Lud at the striker as a false nine, it could be a trust level, it could be a comfort level. It could be something where in the 4-3-3, you don't necessarily, with things changing, you kind of want to go with who you're most comfortable with up top. And maybe the three guys up top that Adrian Heath is most comfortable with are Ethan Finley, Mano Reynoso, and Robin Lod. And where are you going to put those three guys if you trust them the most? Lud's the one that's going to go up top. So it could be that. Again, I don't claim to know what's going on in Adrian Heath's head. I don't think any of us do. But at the same time, I do think that it was interesting seeing Hanu out for the second straight match, but Adrian Heath saw enough to bring him in at halftime, like we mentioned. And I think he performed well in the second half. And I think his presence on the field really helped fuel the team and kind of contribute to that big second half that they had from an attacking standpoint. Sam, any thoughts on that specifically?
Well, was this Lud's fourth goal or was it his fifth goal?
I believe it's been 5.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just checked Transfer Marked, and I don't think it had been updated yet. And I guess that's my only response is that I think he keeps doing it because it's been getting results. It's been getting goals with a striker. Yeah, it's great when they can press. It's great when they can track back, help out the team. But mostly the stat you're looking for is goals, and Robin Lud's been getting goals.
And it could be a situation where Unu maybe just has little to no experience in a 4-3-3. Maybe Adrian Heath really prefers when he's on the field with Nemanja Reynoso directly behind him as the number 10. There could be a lot of tactical things that, I don't see personally going on there that could contribute to that. So,
I think Hanu has a bright Minnesota United future ahead of him.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. I just think right now Lud is scoring some goals, and it's it's hard to not get excited about putting him up there.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's get into these game notes here. Second minute, Loons create a chance right off the bat as Ray sends a nice ball in for Lud, who gets a head on it. Definitely doesn't get all of it. Ends up being a comfortable save for Caps keeper Thomas Hassel. Did you? I always watch these matches with the volume turned down a little bit because that's just how my Roku works. Like the commercials are super loud, so the match is super quiet. Did you get a pronunciation on the Caps keeper's last name?
So if you listen to Putt on You Loons, you know that I rely on Justin and I rely on James for all of this stuff. So that's why we bring him on.
Okay. Could be Hassel. Anyways, yeah. So got a comfortable save there in the second minute. In the 15th, Ibar Calcado does some great work to get the ball and finds Johnny Bikel unmarked in the box, but Bikel's curling shot is wide. Sloppy start for Minnesota, both offensively and defensively. A lot of turnovers. It seemed like the defense was a little loosey-goosey early on. It didn't cost them early on, but in the 36th minute it did, with Christian Dahome getting in behind the Loons back line. Center backs just sort of falling asleep there. Receives the pass, beats Tyler Miller, puts Vancouver ahead 1-0. This has been a few matches in a row where we've seen kind of uncharacteristic defensive miscues from Minnesota United. Just little things like in 2019 and 2020 specifically. I think this Minnesota United defense was so solid because they did the little things really, really well.
Right.
And it seems like there's been a little bit of a miscue on those over the last few matches. Just little things here and there, bad turnovers, falling asleep like they did in this instance, to go down 1-0 in the first half.
Well, and with Michael Boxall and Chase Gasper both out, right? Prior to Michael Boxall going out, we were talking about how he's played every minute of every game. We're going to miss him during the Olympics. He's played every minute of every game. He goes down, and then the big story is, well, Chase Gasper he's played every minute of every game, and a game or two later, he goes down himself. So we're missing two of the foundations of our team. The fact that this miscue happened once, that doesn't bother me too much. I'm actually almost impressed it hasn't happened more often. I think that is just a credit to players like a veteran player like Brent Kallman being able to fill in so well. DJ Taylor, a newer player to the team that we picked up out of the USL Championship, being able to integrate him into the team and get him up to speed, and including putting him on the left, which I don't know how often in training he's playing on the left, but he's typically a right back. So I think given that those two players are out and that there's a formation that we don't normally use, one miscue, yeah, I wish it didn't happen. Yeah, I know that the players would love to take that back, but hey, as I said earlier, we're still only averaging one goal against us every game. That's not too bad.
No, it's not. And especially considering the circumstances that we've seen, like you mentioned, the personnel kind of switch ups due to injuries and whatnot. That's, that's about as good as you can ask for from this back line. And, they delivered for the most part again tonight. But again, that miscue did put them down 1-0. 45th, though, Minnesota United gets it back right before half. Excellent delivery from Reynoso to Finley, who finishes with some gusto, man. That was a rocket. He definitely didn't hold back. Tie game right before half. And I tweeted this, but like I'm always happy when Minnesota United scores. But that grin on my face just gets a little bit wider when it's Ethan Finley putting in the back of the net, because that guy just works so hard. He's such a, talking to him during the pandemic last year. He was on one of the Minnesota United Zoom calls that they did early on in the pandemic when they were talking about the possibility of doing the MLS's back tournament, things like that. And, he is kind of the Players Association representative for Minnesota United. And just talking about how passionate, just seeing how passionate he was about making sure everything was safe and everything was right for the players, and seeing how much of a influencer he has been for Minnesota United during his time here, how hard he works on the field. He's just one of those guys. It seems like he doesn't really have a problem getting himself into position to score a goal, but like there's always like, he's just, the pass is just a half step too far away, or there's just something there where like that finishing touch is just like screwed up just a little bit. But when he's able to put it in the back of the net, this is so great to see, because it's always, in my opinion, it's always so well deserved for Ethan Finley to get a goal.
Yeah, Adrian Heath always would say, play like the fans would play if they got to wear that shirt. And to me, that's Finley. And that's why Finley's always been one of my favorite players. And I'll just add, Lud also credited with the assist on that. So it was Lud to Reynoso to Finlay. So Lud involved on that goal too.
Assist there. Yeah, absolutely. Tie game right before half. Despite that kind of going in on those good vibes, Adrian Heath wasted no time making some switch ups there at halftime. Brings in Adrian Unu on for Ja'Cory Hayes. Switches the shape back from a 4-3-3 to the traditional 4-2-3-1. They talked to him about it at half. He just says we need to get back into our shape. And everybody knows Minnesota United's shape is the 4-2-3-1, which does beg the question, why go to the 4-3-3, from the beginning? But we won't necessarily go into that. But this was really an indicator of Minnesota United's back in their shape. They're back in their comfort zone. And we saw one of the best halves I think I've seen Minnesota United play all season here in the second half. 61st, big chance for Ray off a poor Vancouver turnover deep in their defensive third. But Reynoso, he put this knuckleball shot. Like the ball was, it was weaving in the air. He puts it anywhere else that's in the back of the net. But unfortunately, it is right at Hassel. And even though it's a knuckler, it's right at him, and he's able to corral it. I mean, if that's even just 4 or 5 inches, either way, that's knuckling enough where I don't think the keeper's gonna get a paw on it.
Yeah, that was too bad. I know Kendra was saying in the broadcast that Reynoso would love to have that one back. Nothing much more to say other than that. Right, kicks it just a little bit different. It could have gone in.
Absolutely. But either way, it's still an indicator that Minnesota United's continuing to press, continuing to push, continue to be on the front foot. 69th, Loons earn a kick outside the box. Reynoso takes it beautifully, finding the head of Unu, but the header goes off the inside of the post and out. That would have been such I think a confidence booster for Unu. Would have been great to see him get a goal, getting back in the match there in the second half. Was not to be off the post. But the chances just kept coming.
Yeah. the way our offense works once Reynoso gets going, right?
Yeah.
So
As a distributor.
yeah. And that's why other teams focus on him so much, right? That's why he gets hacked down all the time, all season long. He's been getting a lot of attention from the opposing defenders. But once Reynoso gets going, that's when our offense gets going. And we got to see that in the second half.
Definitely. And paid dividends in the 75th after dominating nearly the entire second up to that point. This is what we're talking about with Will Trapp. Wins the ball in midfield and just takes it up himself, finds a streaking Lud, who has plenty of room to work with. Not sure what Vancouver's doing defensively there. They just kind of allow him to get the ball to the left foot. And he, when you give Robin Lod that much time and space and the ability to put the ball on his left, he's not missing. It just smoothly, calmly puts it in the back of the net to give the Loons the lead.
Yep. Robin Hood, as a couple of people on Twitter finally pointed that out to me. That's why he does the bow and arrow.
I went with the old. I went with the old Rockin' Robin. That might have been a reference that the kids might not have gotten, but that's okay. 84.
But it took me. It took me 2 years? He was signed about 2 years ago, so it took me until now to realize Robin Hood sounds like Robin Hood.
There you go, and it does the. Maybe that. Do you think that's why?
Yeah, that's what. Because James and I were confused about this, and Justin probably knew, but Justin had the week off on our most recent episode, and everyone told us on Twitter. It was multiple people told us on Twitter it was because Robin Hood sounds like Robin Hood. That's how he got the nickname. That's why he does the bow and arrow.
And that's how you.
So you didn't know either?
Pronounced too. That's a great way to do that.
Yeah. So okay. So it wasn't just me and James that didn't know. You didn't know either?
I didn't know either. I had no idea.
Okay. Well, now I feel better.
I've never seen anyone make the reference before. Like, you think if it was like widely known, like you would see the reference made, especially with all the goals he's scoring and all the times he's doing it. I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. Like maybe that the bow and arrow thing is implied more.
Maybe people think it's a given. That could be it. That could be it too. But yeah, the Rockin' Robin reference didn't perform well on the Twitter machine. I think it's too old. Go listen to Jackson 5, kids. Okay, Jackson 5. All right, 84th minute. Let me pull up my notes here. Vancouver on the attack. Send it back and forth across goal a couple times. This is a scary situation. Javane Brown fires a shot at Miller. He's able to catch it and hold on. And then here we go, Sam. We talked about it in the beginning. Yep. We're circling back to it now. 90+3. Vancouver scores after a PK. Contact in Minnesota's box in a battle for the ball between Finley and a Vancouver player who I'm not sure who it was. Players from both sides go down. It's called a penalty. VAR, there was a VAR check, but I don't think you can really call it an official VAR review if the referee wasn't able to go to the monitor, which he was not. But either way, they kind of allow the penalty to be taken. DeJonghe converts it to level the match late. He does hurt his knee in the process too, which we haven't talked about yet. He goes down. I thought initially he might have gone down in the celebration, but he came up immediately after he took that penalty kick. So hopefully he's okay. But either way, just leaving a sour taste in the mouth. We've kind of given our take on the penalty decision. We both disagree with it. Finley, if you missed earlier on, my take was that Finley was beaten to the ball, but he did not initiate any of the contact. The contact was initiated by Vancouver. So at the very least, I think it should have been a no call. I do, again, kind of referencing back what I mentioned before, I do kind of understand the referee in real time in that situation, not necessarily making seeing it for what it is and making that kind of call. But this is why you have VAR to go take a look at these things and make sure you get the call right. And in my opinion, they failed to do so in this particular case. But either way, it ends up in a 2-2 draw. Only 1 point for Minnesota United. Definitely feels like 2 points lost. Feels like 2 points stolen, to be honest. I think that might be the best way to put it.
It feels like a loss. It feels like we're talking about a loss right now. I have to keep reminding myself that it actually was a draw. I have to keep reminding myself that the streak is alive. But
I mean, this is on the LAFC post, Loons. I accidentally called that a win like twice because that felt like a win, right? And then, I mean, you score at the death to draw 2-2 against LAFC, and then you get scored on at the death for a 2-2 draw against Vancouver. Minnesota United fans definitely living both sides of that coin over this last week.
Well, and it seems like the team felt like the LAFC game was a win. The way that, right, like the things that Heath does after a win, he keeps his lineup unchanged. He did that today, right? Despite the miles people put on their legs against LAFC, that was talked about throughout the broadcast today. How much our players had ran at LAFC. Adrian Heath likes to keep his lineup the same after a win. He likes to, if something's not broke, he doesn't want to fix it. He wants to keep things rolling. I agree with that, right? Like I'm all for that, but to me that shows that in his mind, LAFC was a win. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you accidentally called LAFC a win. This feels like a loss. This absolutely feels like a loss. Again, I know you've talked about it before. The nature of this program that you have is that you're preparing while the game is still going on. And we start typing out notes as if this game is wrapping itself up. And I think you and I both are in the same boat where we just assumed that the game was over and we were going to talk about a win. If we weren't talking about a win, I think we would have assumed that we got beaten. I don't think we would have assumed that Vancouver was just given a penalty.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to sort of summarize this is, Minnesota United comes out 2-2 draw, but they were the better team tonight. When you think 2-2 draw against Vancouver, they were probably outplayed. They didn't play up to their potential. And for the first 45, they didn't,
Right.
But such a dominant second half, they deserved the 3 points. Unfortunately, didn't get them, and that's the way she goes sometimes. I mean, that's soccer, right? I grew up playing baseball, and I'm probably going to lose all of our viewers after I say I grew up playing baseball, but that's how it goes. You can get 10 hits, score 2 runs, and face a team who gets 5 hits and scores 6 runs, right? That's how it goes sometimes. That's how it goes in sports sometimes. And unfortunately, Minnesota United has kind of, again, they've seen both ends of the spectrum here. Wednesday against LAFC and tonight against Vancouver. But let's move forward here. Let's look forward next Saturday. So you get the week off, which is huge for rest. And now you go to Houston you were home against Houston on Saturday. Unfortunately, Christian Ramirez just made the transfer to Europe, so he will not be coming. Darwin Quintero, though, in all likelihood, will be. And based off the second half we saw, when you talk about what Adrian Heath likes to do, I would assume he probably saw enough in the second half to go back to the 4-2-3-1 to start the game on against Houston in the traditional way with kind of the traditional guys, given who's healthy and who's available that we expect to see in that formation.
I would assume so too, especially with Finlay playing the way that he has been playing.
Agreed. And then LA Galaxy the following Saturday. So 2 midweeks off coming up. That's going to be big. Again, this team's coming off 4 matches in 13 days. So having 2 straight midweeks off, you only go Saturdays. Next Saturday at home against Houston, and then August 14th at home against LA Galaxy. Good opportunity here to get back on the front foot, or I guess keep yourself on the front foot, because they weren't on the front foot tonight. So I'm going to say keep yourself on the front foot against a Houston team who's below you in the standings, but a pretty good LA Galaxy team. I mean, they beat the brakes off of Portland. Was it last night or the other night? It was like 5-1 or something like that. So this is a Galaxy team that's playing really, really well. So that could be a good measuring stick so long as you take care of business against Houston.
Right.
All right. We have gone 50 minutes. My voice, while it's back for the most part, you can tell it's cracking a little bit now. 50 minutes of talking. Definitely needs a little bit more rest before it's back to 100%. I'm glad I didn't have to do this on my own again, Sam. Thank you so much for popping on. Appreciate it. And any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, guys, thanks for bearing with us. You probably didn't want to listen to us talk about that draw. You know, we enjoy doing this. We enjoy talking about our Loons, but
6 a.m. Central Time.
But yeah, that was a tough game to talk about. That was a tough draw to talk about.
There's 4 of you still tuning in right now. And for the 4 of you that are still tuning in, I cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. I mean, again, we're in August. It is officially August, Sam. August 1st.
Yep.
And now 3. We're losing people. It's fine. It's people's bedtimes. I get it. They have better things to do. But can't thank you enough. Everybody who's watching, everybody who will listen to the podcast afterwards, who will watch the recording either on Twitter or on YouTube after the fact. Thank you so much. Sam, where can people find and connect with Pod on You Loons?
Yeah, look for us on Twitter at PodLoons. You can look up Pod on You Loons on any of the normal podcasting apps. We got Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon. We're iHeart. We're on all of them. Just look for us there. You can find us on Twitter at PodLoons. We're on Facebook, I think also at PodLoons, and then Instagram, we're something else, but we don't update our Instagram anyway. So don't look for us on Instagram. Just find us on Twitter and Facebook.
You guys still in the vacation rotation, or you guys gonna be out full strength this week?
We'll be full strength. We'll be full strength. Ironically, the one that's been the most consistent is the guy that's overseas and has to wake up at odd times to watch the Loons and record the podcast. It's been Justin and I that have had to rotate in and out. So
I know for a fact James is willing to, stay up for some content. He helped me a couple matches ago on Post Loons. So that was ridiculous.
I was, because he's 7 hours ahead of us. Yeah. I was texting him because I was like, I'm not staying up late enough to watch you on Post Loons.
Hey, he said he'd do it. So
yeah. And he loved it. He wants to do it again.
Hey, anytime you guys want to jump on Post Loons, I'm happy to have you here. It's so much better than doing it solo. I don't mind doing it solo, but it's so much better to have somebody here. And I think everybody watching will echo that fact, that it's better to have 2 people talking about the match than one person rambling on for 30, 45 minutes or whatever it is. Sam, I'll let you get to bed, man. Thank you so much for joining me. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah. Take care, Jeremy.
All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll catch you next Saturday on Post Loons.